Welcome to Satsang. During Satsang, I often make a statement, about the subject. Says, well, now feel it, And I received a lot of emails telling me, I don't know what you mean, Burt. What how do you feel it? What do you mean by feeling it? So today's topic is going to be how to feel. And it's quite something too, because we often confuse feeling with emotion. Mm-hmm. See? And so to see the difference would be, quite a step already. So, now there are 3 ways to listen with feeling. In other words, to feel something and completely. Number 1 is that whatever you hear, especially the spiritual subject, is that whatever you hear is always a concept. The moment we hear something, a word love, freedom, spirituality, Holy Spirit or whatever, immediately we have an interpretation what it is and we have an image of it, which is understandable because the mind works through imagination, okay? It's always interpreting and creating concepts. But in order to feel something, the very first important step is to say to yourself, this is a concept. And the moment you do, you're able to go deeper, you see? See, the moment you make up your mind about something, and you might not have known that you've made up your mind about it, but the moment you hear it, immediately you think you know it. And the moment you think you know it, you cannot go deeper. And many people keep asking, why aren't I going deeper? I seem to be stuck. Well, because you are stuck in how you see things. In other words, you've made up your mind how it is. Okay. It's never the way you think it is. Never, never, never. I learned that through many years. Number 2, okay, always see infinite possibilities within a subject. And that is how to feel it, because feeling is an experience. Feeling is a knowing experience. And it has nothing to do with imagination, although everything else is. And number 3, always take it to a 0 point in order to understand it fully. Because when you take it to a 0 point, you go to nothingness, right? And the moment you go to nothingness, there's only one thing that remains, feeling. Feeling is the only truth we have. Anything else is imagination, you see? But feeling, I'm talking about pure feeling now. So before we go a little further and give you an examples of how to look at something, would you like to tell me what you feel about feeling when the moment you hear about feeling? What do you think it is?
Something that's outside of the thought processes.
Something outside the thought processes. A very good way to put it. Okay. Anybody else?
For me, it would be a sense of knowing without conception.
Yeah, knowing without conception. So you're having more or less a direct experience of how it is in its purity, in its essence,
yes,
without your mind
it down or anything.
Right.
Just raw.
Yeah. See, let's take the subject of love, for example. You take the word love, we repeat it over and over again, you see? And the moment people hear it, they hear it according to their level of understanding. For example, let's say a person happens to be physically oriented. The moment they hear the word love, they think of romance, they think of sex, you see? Well, naturally. If they happen to be very intellectual, then of course they relate it to their level of understanding, which is communication. So they see love as communicating, sharing similar interests. If you happen to be emotional, then of course you bring the security factor in it, and there's also connection with romance relationship, you see, usually in an emotional sense. And then there's a spiritual aspect of it. You begin to see love as a oneness. But oneness cannot be defined at all. Oneness, there's no, the moment we think we know oneness, then we have to stop and go deep, because oneness. Now, I had a client 3 days ago, a Japanese young man. He's not very well physically, and anyway, and this man told me that he had an experience, a oneness experience, and it lasted for a few seconds, and it was so wonderful to hear. It was so beautiful to hear. And he described exactly a similar experience that I've had myself. And so I connected, beautifully with him, and it was wonderful. Anyway, he just wrote me an email now, and he wants to have another Skype. So anyway, oneness is an experience, and that's when you feel it directly. It's not a concept, it is not an idea. Okay, now, what is interesting to really begin to experience the pure feeling and to go deeper, the only way to do that is to see one thing very, very clearly. Everything is imagination. Everything. Everything that you can think of is just imagination. You see? Now, the moment we make an imagination real, the moment we make it real and we don't know it's imagination, it becomes destructive. Okay? Please keep that in mind if you've never heard it before. So there are two modes of imagination. There's constructive imagination, which is beautiful and it brings us a lot of beauty in our life. And then there is destructive imagination, okay, which always leads to destruction. If we were to follow history, how destructive imagination can be, when Hitler was thrown into prison in the First World War, he wrote Mein Kampf. And he came up with a plan to make Germany the master race. And it's amazing. He almost brought it about. But it was bound to be destructive, because to him it was real. He was God. You see what I mean? It wasn't just he emulated the Roman Empire at the time, like Caesar, with the banners and everything else. Anyway, similarly with Karl Marx. Karl Marx was really an idealist, rather a good man. And he came up with the idea of having equality among society. Equal, rich, poor, nothing, So he came up with communism. So the idea of communism was idealistic, but it cannot be carried out because, again, people don't want to be equal. The rich don't want to mix up with the poor, and the poor with the rich. They seem to be two levels so therefore, the idea of communism became enforced. And again, it led to destruction. Stalin was a perfect example of communism, and he used to make a list every night before he went to bed of the kind of how many people he's going to kill the next day, to put them to death, and that's to gain more power. But anyway,
you wouldn't be able to count that high.
Was that?
You wouldn't be able to count that high.
But you all know these stories. But the reason I'm emphasizing these that you already know is to show you the two modes of destructive imagination. When you make it real, it's always destructive, always. I've been doing hypnotherapy, which I call now super sentees, for 35 years. And I've had hundreds of clients. And I see people really suffering emotionally, really suffering. And of course, I'm not going to tell them it's all imagination. I am one with them. I have compassion, I have understanding, and hopefully they begin to see how they are creating all this with their mind. But because they make it real, the suffering feels very, very real. You see? So what is imagination? Destructive imagination, making the world real. Now, for example, look around you. Can you see anything at all that wasn't created by imagination? Anything at all? The wall, the switch, the picture, everything is done by creative imagination. You see? So the whole world. Now, how we see it individually is our imagination. What we feel about is our individual imagination. You see? So this is the interesting part, and this is how we're going to get into feeling, because feeling is the only thing that is beyond imagination, especially when we take it to its 0 point. Now let's take beautiful imagination. Imagination, when you know it's imagination. When you know it's imagination, then it brings beauty. Walt Disney was a perfect example. He gave us the Walt Disney characters, the cartoons. He gave us Disneyland, beautiful man, very creative. We came up with Christmas during the time of Jesus, and everybody enjoys Christmas. It's all imagination. But it's a time of giving and sharing, and it's beautiful, but it's all done by imagination. You see, literature, it's all done by imagination. A writer sits down and all of a sudden he gets an idea, his imagination goes very, very deep, and he comes up with a novel and makes a fortune, best-selling, Music, imagination. Any form of art is imagination. It's beautiful because you know it's imagined, and you know that it's not real, but imagined. And so when something is not, you know that it's imagined, then it's a beautiful, innocent creativity. You see, that can benefit everybody. So any form of art is creative. If we go into business and you have a very creative imagination and you create a beautiful business and you know that it's coming from your imagination, then you'll enjoy it. But the moment you make it too real, then you get caught in it. And before you know it, you're suffering from anxiety. You see? So those are the two modes of imagination. But we discussed the 3 points of taking a feeling all the way to its fullness. First, you see it that it's a concept. Now, whenever I hear a word at all, in my mind I try to feel out, do I have a picture of it? And if I have a picture, no, it's deeper than that, deeper. You see, that's the way that I begin to understand more and more and more, and I can, and I can bring more stuff to talk about. Number 2, never fail to see absolutely infinite possibilities, because everything that we think of that has to do with spirituality is a nothing. You see, it's not imagination, it's nothing. And that's the beautiful thing. Now remember that when we come back and take it to a 0 point, or we take it to absolutely nothing, what happens? The feeling is still there. And what is feeling? We call it experience, we call it this, we call it that. But the natural state of pure feeling is pure awareness, isn't it? The very nature of being. You are a human being. You're a being playing the human role. You see? And who's playing the human role? The oneness, which is pure awareness. You see? So when you take anything like love to its ultimate sense, to its ultimate meaning, by taking it to a 0 point, then you hit upon what is real about it. And when you hit upon what is real about it, it becomes an experience. It's no longer a concept, because now you're not thinking about it. You haven't made any interpretation. You're so open to its truth, that it's really nothing, that it's total emptiness, like Buddha called it, that immediately what is left is just pure awareness, and then it becomes an experience. And then it's a state that we cannot even talk about. Okay? Now, today, by talking about imagination, I would like to do a technique with you, and those of you who are watching might want to participate. And it's based on imagination, but I have found, because I apply this technique that I'm going to give you, I apply it, and it has helped me tremendously in probing, going deeper and deeper. Someone wrote me today, and I just want to mention it first, because sometimes there's many contradictions when we read. And when we read, we find these contradictions. Now, one contradiction was this, a woman wrote me back and she said, Burt, she said, there is no choice at all. We don't have any choice. And then I said to her, you must have been reading Advaita books, right? And she said, yes. And you know, we talked for a while. That is, you know, back with emails. This is after a period of a day or so. And I said, yeah, whatever they write about is so. And she said, but the Course in Miracles says that there is choice. So where was the discrepancy? So now, before we do the technique, I'd like to have some feedback about this. One says there is no choice, and it's true. And the other one says, the Course says there is choice, and it's also true. How do you, yeah?
I feel that the choice is the imagination that comes out, but the backdrop of all is just that there is no choice. It's like the non-dual, like they kind of go hand in hand together. And so, yeah, like the choice
so when
coming out of the imagination. Personally, for me, again, it's just, yeah.
Okay, so when the Course says there is choice, what does the Course refer? What is it? What is the approach?
I haven't read the book, but
no, I mean that's what it says, and I respect it. It's a very beautiful book. Yeah.
My sense would be that we have a choice to either choose to go with the feeling and what is real, or we have a choice to separate from that and go into the imagination. So the choice we would have is to align our mind's awareness with that, as opposed to continue to imagine and making that the real, so that there would be.
So you're talking from a state of awareness already.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because when Advaita they write there is no choice, they're talking to the average person who think they are an ego. You see? And the ego has no choice, really. And the paradox is, of course, that the ego thinks it has so many choices. You know? But it always chooses from a conditioned point, which is the past, which in truth there is no choice. Okay? But then, the Course in Miracles talks to you as a Christ self. And sometimes it goes from talking about you as an ego or talking to you as the Christ self that you are. So you see, and then they make that understanding that you are a human being. The human has really no choice but to follow the instincts that have been given and the conditioning. You see? But the being, once it begins in its readiness, there is the choice of seeing. Because when you begin to see the thoughts as thoughts, then there is the choice that you can choose either loving thoughts or negative thoughts.
It's a bit like the imagination thing. When you see it, then when you are aware of it, or you choose that awareness, then it opens up everything.
Yeah.
And the other one is driven. Because if we are aware of what drives us, then we become free and we have endless possibilities because we start from the 0 point.
Yeah.
So even 1 second we could be driven, and that awareness just frees that.
And also we know, you see, this is again another paradox. We're talking about it here. When you begin to realize that you are a being and you're driven by the being for deeper and deeper seeing, then you realize you're not a doer at all. But in that knowing that there is no doer, you have a choice of choosing between love and fear, between this and that. Do you see the seeming contradictions here?
Well, the choice is I don't know, here's a question more, and that is that if you are aware, then it would be ridiculous to choose fear.
Exactly. Isn't it? Absurd.
Absurd.
Right. You see, so when you're aware, when fear is happening, you're not a victim of it.
Yes.
Because
It's
you
just
realize
happening.
it's destructive. So, well, you realize that, yeah. You don't even choose fear. It's choiceless, because truth is choiceless, isn't it?
There's no fear to choose.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're aware that you don't have any fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very beautiful. Yeah. So are you in for this technique that I'd like to do?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. You're for it.
Yes.
Okay. I have found it very effective in my case, and I do it very often. And it's a short one, but it's using your imagination. You see, and by using your imagination, you can derive great benefit, because you can actually get knowledge from within you in a very direct way. Or before I explain too much, let's go into it. Choose a position where you can be steady. Okay. Yeah. Your back straight. Your head erect. Good. Now close your eyes. Now I'd like you to take a very deep breath from the lower abdomen. Hold it for a few seconds, and then when you exhale, count 3. That is 3, 3, 3, 3 times. You just see it in your mind. Okay. Well, let's repeat once more. Take a very deep breath. Hold it. Now exhale and repeat 2. Keep seeing the word 2. 2. And keep listening to the instructions, so your mind becomes deeper into alpha. Okay, and now for the last time, take a very deep breath. Hold it. Now exhale and see the number 1. 1. 1. Now remaining very still, I'm going to count from 10 to 1. And with each decreasing number, feel that you are going deeper and deeper, more and more relaxed. Your mind remains receptive, you remain aware of the voice, you remain everything that's going on, but you are relaxed. 10, 9, 8, deeper and deeper, more and more relaxed. 7, 6, 5, deeper and deeper, more and more relaxed. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Now, you find yourself in an elevator. And this elevator has one button. And you also know that when you press the button, it will take you to a parallel universe where you will meet your I am essence. You're looking forward to this, but you're quite relaxed. You're very happy about it. And you are inside this elevator knowing that all you have to do is just press the button, that's it. And when you press the button, the elevator will move at speed of light to take you to a parallel universe. Okay, so now you're looking forward to this, you're very relaxed, very peaceful. You press the button, and now the elevator is moving up at the speed of light. Now it stops. You press the button once more, and the door opens. As soon as the door opens, you see the I am. And right now you're a little surprised when you see that this I am looks exactly like you. It's a replica of you. It's how you see yourself in the mirror, exactly. And you're looking at this being, this I am of you, your twin self. And as you look at this twin self, you feel so happy, you feel so good, because it's so radiant, it's all aglow. It has the same past as you. The only difference with this being is that it has forgiven the past completely. And because it has forgiven the past, it has forgotten the past. And so it's totally here now. So alive, so alert. Now this being is so here now that you can see from its eyes a great depth, as if you can swim inside the eyes. So now you feel that this is who you are in reality. This is the I am of you, your twin self. And you can trust it. It is the eternal part of you. And as you look into its eyes, you ask it a question. The question that you ask it is your living question. That is a question that you have had for a long time. Maybe you've had a question like, I never felt quite good enough. Or maybe I never felt safe enough. Or maybe I never belonged anywhere. Or I feel stuck. And so on and on and on and on. Questions that you might have repeated over and over again without even knowing that you were using them. Because after all, the human lives in imagination. Even the persona, that it's a person, what it really is a self-image. A self-image means an image, imagination. So now you're seeing all this very clearly. And by looking into the eyes of this being that you really are, the twin self of you, you ask it to this being. But this being which you are doesn't answer you, it doesn't have to, because you merge with it and you can feel it through its own eyes. You can feel one with it and you can feel the answer coming to you. Now I'm going to pause for about a minute or less, that you ask this question and receive the answer just by looking into the perfection of this being that you are. Now, you have received somewhat of an answer. You feel good, having met your true self, the I am. And it looks exactly like you. And this being is feeling, pure feeling. The image that is you in it is because how you see yourself. But in truth you know that it's the real essence of you. Now I'm going to count to 5, And when I count 5, you will feel wonderful, relaxed, peaceful, and having had a new experience. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now open your eyes. Okay. Did anything happen at all? Did you ask a question and get an answer? Or a feeling?
I think for me it was a feeling. I just saw my face lit and joyful, and feeling there was a lot of love there and joy, and so it was just sort of to allow myself to feel that, instead of some fear and feeling stuck. Mm-hmm. But it was just there, the light and it was more of a feeling, but I could also see I could feel the sort of the presence, the joy, and I could feel a real love there.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so it was about just allowing to be that.
To be, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a feeling there as well as...
Do you see the beauty of this technique? Not only you learn to appreciate and love and accept yourself, but also that the twin self that you are is your Holy Spirit. It is it's because it's whole and it is spirit. And eventually, as you begin to merge with it, the image itself is no longer necessary anymore. You begin to feel that connection, that presence with you all the time. You see? So it's wonderful. Now this is something that I've practiced now for quite a while. And whenever I have a difficult question or anything at all, I don't believe in books when I read or anything. I just have my own counsel. And it's amazing the knowledge that is within us when we are willing to go deeper than the mind. To go into real deep. Okay. So, anybody else would like to share? How about you, Jesse?
There's a forgiveness there. Since I was looking at my twin self, there's an exact carbon copy of me, but the only difference is what you were mentioning, that there's no past anymore, and just just whatever I'm feeling, whatever emotion is there, some past or whatever, just was able to see it for what it was, and just as it is, that's it. Just my twin self, and that's it. And there's like this forgiveness is happening, like this. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really hard to explain. It's just,
it is hard to explain. Yeah, but thank you for trying. Yeah.
Very content. Very just.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, and I never mentioned forgiveness as we were talking about feeling, but forgiveness is what it's all about. You see, as you take it, you don't interpret or conceptualize anything, you stick with it. In other words, you don't make anything real, because everything that we experience as a human is imagination. And the one thing that is real is who we really are. But that cannot be conceptualized, that cannot be interpreted. See, but through imagination, it can take us even beyond imagination, because this is the important thing to understand here. By seeing everything as imagination, you can go beyond it. You see? Now, the Course in Miracles calls it illusion. I like the word imagination, because Albert Einstein said something very beautiful. He said, man's greatest gift is his imagination. Because all beauty, all art, all literature, everything comes from man's imagination. Creativity, you see? Creativity is next to godliness. Creation. But anything that we create, when we take it back to its source, it always comes back to the same thing. In that isness, in that wholeness from which everything emerges. Yeah.
It was interesting, or the words fail me, but that isness had both joyousness and unfathomable compassion, but yet those words are not true there. It's a new sense. They don't mean what they normally mean. It's a paradox. And yet, even those words, it's because there, compassion isn't about feeling for, or they dissolve into something else. They go into the zero place, which is quite something.
See, when you go to the zero place, there is no you and me, but yet there is you and me. You see, it's the same way where there is no ego that says me, but yet there is always I am. See, and that's where the two become one, and that's when we begin to understand the wholeness, the completion of it. You see, it's neither this nor that, but both. Yeah. Great. What about you, Bill?
Well, I've been lately thinking quite a bit about the future. I have a blind sister, and I've been doing a caregiver role for several years with an elderly mother who passed on. Now a blind sister who she depends on my meals and everything. So I've been running around trying to find something in the future where she's has her own place with her meals taken care of, and I have my own place, maybe in the same place, and it's going to be better than where I am now. So I asked that question: am I going to move? And I did. All I got was the feeling light and no thought about the move or staying, other than if I'm cooking the meals for her where I am now, that's fine. And it may happen or it may not, but it just got this now is okay sort of thing.
Very good. Yeah.
And all of a sudden it doesn't seem to matter that much. I don't feel so trapped anymore doing the meals.
Beautiful. Yeah. See, it's so very simple too. A client of mine too, I put him through this technique. And the one question, the living question he's always had is, what am I to do with my life? What am I to do about this? What am I to do? What is my next move? And when I put him through this technique at the end, he received this message. And the message told him, he says, your function, just like, because he's studying the Course in Miracles too, but he got it very clear. He says, your only function is to forgive. And when you forgive, the next step will be done through you, will be done for you. You see? And he was so relieved, like it did more for him than the previous 3 sessions we've had. And it's all came. And so, because when you get it, when you listen to somebody talk, it's fine, it's okay. But when you have a direct experience, you see, it has much more, a greater foundation, see, greater stability. So, so it did quite a bit for him when he realized that. Yeah. His only job is from moment to moment to forgive. So if he thinks, well, am I going to the next? Forgive it. You see? Forgive it. Just be here. Just be here. This intelligence keeps your heart beating, keeps doing everything, so why not, couldn't he take care of you too? You see? Which it does. This vast intelligence. Yeah.
Oh, well, I was asking, I sort of took your lead there and asked, because perhaps an issue for me has been, that sense of not belonging, or perhaps not belonging. So I asked that question, and actually what happened was, the question itself just sort of dissolved. It's not actually a relevant question. All I felt was gratitude.
Beautiful.
It's just
Beautiful.
Life is. Why am I asking this? It's
right.
You know.
When it becomes irrelevant, the question itself.
Yeah.
Now that's forgiveness of it. That's the answer.
Wow.
You see,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
See how beautiful it is when people speak up. Because it's so much more important, this sharing, because we see it from different angles, and it's so simple. The technique itself is so simple. How long did it take us? 5-10 minutes? I'm not conscious of time. But it can do so much, and I'm hoping, and those of you who are listening to this video, that you will do it regularly. It's only a few minutes a day, Can I ask you, Ben, did you get a...
Forgiveness come to me, and
When you ask the question?
yeah, in a way I didn't really consciously ask any question. I just observed what
Oh, okay,
took
okay.
place. But forgiveness was up on
The major thing.
on my mind.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So when, the reason, I mentioned also living question, for those of you, do you know what I mean by living question? Do you know what I mean, Jerry?
No. Can you say a few words?
Okay, a living question is something that everybody has. We are born with it as humans. And the reason we have this living question is because we are a human being. But we haven't realized that we are a being playing the human role. We are infinite being. We're not just, a little drop of the ocean, a wave of the ocean. We are the ocean itself. We seem to be separate and unique like a wave of the ocean, but at the same time we're all the same water, you see. So, but because we don't know that, when we grow up, we feel as if something is missing. Something is not quite complete. Something is not quite there. We don't know what it is. We can put our finger on it. We read many books, we read psychology, philosophy, metaphysics, etc., to give us an answer. But still, it's not there. Something holds us back. Okay, that's called the living question. It is called living because it is in you all the time without realizing it. Like a person would say to me, I just don't feel I belong. Or I feel like whatever. I never feel totally secure or totally safe, etc., depending upon how you got conditioned through your life journey. Okay? And it is a question because that doesn't mean it's actually a question. If you say to yourself, I feel lost or I feel empty, that doesn't seem like a question, but it is because it is a form of wanting something more. And the word question comes from the word quest, to seek. You see? So in other words, there's a seeking in us all the time without realizing it's there. It's a discomfort that we feel because we're not in touch with God. We're in touch with our true essence, with our true being. You see? So naturally we feel something is missing. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And the beautiful thing about using our imagination to even go beyond imagination, which is this technique supplies, is that we begin to see the truth of who we are. Like one time I wrote a booklet and it's on the table. And it came to me through the Holy Spirit that if you want to know who you are when you're feeling anxious, ask yourself, what do I prefer instead of this anxiety? I prefer not to be anxious. I prefer to be more relaxed. Well, when you say, I prefer to be more relaxed, because your true nature is already that relaxation, because your preference means you're already it, but you think it's something you're going to attain. See, and that is the point. So our true nature is that twin that we saw.
Yeah, it's interesting because we never ask for the opposite. Let's say I'm feeling relaxed. oh, I want to feel anxious. So it's like, it's never the opposite. It's always,
Exactly.
it's always the positive that we want.
Beautiful.
So it's like, it's a forward movement, but never a backward movement.
That's right.
So it's already within us. It's not something that's outside that we're going to have to...
It's already within, it's already there. But the mind says, oh, I want to be more relaxed instead of anxious. How I wish I was more relaxed, you see? The ego is always kind of, it doesn't know how to be with that preference. And the point is to be with that preference. You know, the reason I prefer it is because my nature is that preference. That's how I came up with it. I never come up with, I just want to be afraid. I just want to be anxious. My face feels funny when I laugh because I lost this tooth. My lip feels...
feels naked.
Feels naked, yeah. And it rubs against it, you know. Yeah, beautiful.
There's just one little thing on the Eckhart and Oprah webinar thing that they did. Toward the end of that series, there was a period where these people were watching on these big screens as groups. They were watching, and so the questions were being asked. And when it came down to how do you live, Eckhart? You know, like what's your life like? And some of them, well, to make a long story short, some of them thought that he had a very boring and undramatic life, and they wanted more drama. You know, it's almost like they preferred super high highs and super low lows to peace and tranquility. And I just sort of wonder, like, what does that mean? Or is it actually possible to prefer? Well, mind you, it's not that. It's just the human side of them that's preferring that, but stimulation and I guess it's.
Well, the need for stimulation is there too. The reason is because when we think in terms of peace, you know, or these things, we just boring, you know. But peace is alive. You know what I mean? How can it be boring? My goodness, you know, like I've, you know, many years ago. Don't mind me talking about myself, but many years ago, I used to have a lot of similar concepts. But I've never known joy until this age I am now. You know, really. The true joy, true aliveness, and I call it peace. But the word peace always seems like something blah, but it isn't. It's a very alive thing, you know, and it's an innocent joy with everything and everyone, and it's there all the time. And so if somebody says, "What do you do, Burt?" I sit. And I sit some more, and I read, and I do some Skypes, and I don't go out much, except, you know, to go for a little walk, but unless somebody asks me. It's a boring life, isn't it? Oh no. Yeah. So, because one thing that on the outside, we think that living is done outside. The real living is done in here. It's all in here. You see, you can be jumping around and drinking and smoking and going on drugs and having a high, but that's because you want the inside. You see, because you know that the real living is all done in here. You know, on the outside you can go crazy with action, just to stimulate you, because we want that stimulation. But why do we want it? Why do we want excitement? Do you know that the most popular movies they have sex in it? And there's nothing wrong with sex, it's beautiful, but, you know, pornography is making billions annually, and adventure movies and the killer movies, murder stories, are on top of the list of entertainment. Why?
Because it makes people feel alive.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Strange as it may seem, it makes us feel alive. But but the movies that are sensitive movies, like nice, beautiful stories of love and tenderness, they're very rare. But when they do come out, it's they're beautiful. Anyway, they're not very popular because again, most people live from emptiness. It's called that living question. You see.
So that's an example, really, of the effect of that living question is looking for a replacement for what we're not giving ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Looking out there for a replacement.
We're looking. That's right. We're looking outside, and as long as you keep looking outside, it will never end. See? Because you can never find yourself outside. And inside your mind, you cannot find yourself either, because you're not the thoughts, you're not the past. So you can only find yourself through
Feeling.
Feeling. Very good. Through pure feeling, pure essence, pure awareness, pure being. I call it the Holy Spirit.
With the needing the highs and the lows, or desiring that, isn't that part of the mechanism to reinforce our illusionary identity? Because otherwise it begins to thin and fade when the light of non-stimulated peace comes forth.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be scary for the human, because it would be like almost a form of death.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And our fear of death is really nothing more than the fear of losing our ego. See, that's why we create so much self-sabotage. Yeah. But when you start understanding that everything is imagination, everything, and you start enjoying the imagination, and you know that you can create the kind of world that you want, but also knowing that beyond that world of your creation, there's something even better and deeper. And that's when you start getting in touch with it too. Because you get moments of intuitive knowing that are deeper than the imagination. That it itself takes you deeper.
When you are talking about beautiful imagination, where you're aware it is from imagination, and the same imagination, and you forget that it is an imagination, will it then become destructive?
If you start believing it is real, then the reality itself lends itself to control. You see, for example, let's say you are doing a job, and you keep saying to yourself, this is the most important job there is, it's very, very important. And you know that your imagination created it because it's something you love doing. But after a while, it becomes so important to you, personally, so real, that you become a workaholic. You see what I mean? All of a sudden you begin to forget your family, your children, you begin to forget everything, you get lost in it more and more and more, you become immersed in it, and it leads to destruction in the sense that your health might suffer through it, your peace of mind might suffer through it. See, because you take it too seriously. When you take something very real, it becomes very serious. So, but when you know it's not real, then you're always flexible, and you can love it, but you're not a slave to it, you're not a victim to it. You see? Remember that our subconscious mind is that kind of a state that it doesn't know the difference between the real and unreal, the subconscious mind. So anything that you tell it is real, the subconscious will manifest it as a reality that you cannot do without. And when there is something that you have made so real that you cannot do without, you become attached to it, you become bound to it, you become a slave to it. And that is its destructive quality, you see. But as long as it's imagination and it's beautiful and you love it and it's flowing, then it's very enriching. Okay.
So that is the same thing can happen with the spiritual imagination
It,
as well, and
A spiritual imagination,
Get very
there are
caught.
many people go into fantasies, and then they make it very, very real, and they become... this happens in religion. My religion is the only thing real. And so, so it goes against another religion. You see? But you don't see it that a religion, the beauty of religion is simply to bring you close to God. But we lose that, and we get lost in it, in ritual, in its function, in its beliefs. And it begins to own us and bind us, and yeah. So yeah, spirituality is not so much religion. Yeah, religion usually is destructive. Yeah.
I meant more spirituality as a concept.
Yeah, there are a lot of concepts in spirituality, but if people are very sincere in that spirituality, if they really want to know the truth, usually they go beyond it. They begin to see the illusion of their own addiction. They go deeper. If, however, they go into some fascination with spirituality, they becomes destructive. It becomes, yeah. There are many people who have been lost in spiritual fascination, and they became unbalanced. That happens. Yeah, but it's because they make it very real. They don't know that the real is nothing. You see, the moment we become afraid of nothing, we're trying to make something out of nothing. We make it into an abyss. Nothing is nothing, and that's the beauty. That's the mystical quality of it. That's the glory of it. But the mind is always making it something. Oh, I'm afraid of this nothing. I'm going to be lost in it. It's going to kill me. You see. But how can nothing be afraid? Be feared? How can fear exist in nothing? Nothing can only be glorious because it just is. You see? For example, let's take, when we think about something, the real qualities of nothing, which is love, which is freedom. See, when we think of freedom, what do people think of? I can do what I want, when I want, how I want. But the real freedom, there is no personal in it. The real freedom is that nothingness where you are totally free. Nothing is
you don't have any wants. So you're free.
You're free.
It's like little n nothing and big N nothing or something.
You're
Little n nothing isn't big N nothing.
The word, last time we were here, we talked about the word gratitude. Remember? Mm-hmm. And when we think of gratitude, we always think of be grateful for what you have. It is beautiful to be grateful for what you have. That's psychology. You read psychology, but just be grateful for what you have. But it's short-lived. Be grateful for what you are. Then it is not short-lived.
And that is a feeling.
And that is a feeling.
Yeah.
That comes through direct experience. The experience, that feeling, you see.
And then you're not dependent on a list to go over a list of things that
you can be grateful for.
Yeah, like, what else am I grateful for? I've already listed 1,000 things. It's still not enough now but that is just I am.
I am. That's it.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Whether you have or have not, it doesn't matter.
It includes all that at once.
And it includes
new gratitude that comes. That's also included too, which may happen
That's
50 years from now or something.
That's right.
It's all there.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's all inclusive. Yeah.
All inclusive.
This kind of wonderfulness.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So
the grateful for what I have is kind of forced positive thinking.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden that car you're grateful, it turns into an old wreck, so then you have to be grateful for the whatever's left over, which is, let's see, there's something got to be around here I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the tin for the leftover for the cat.
Yeah.
Maybe pure gratitude is not possible to express verbally as well.
It's a feeling. Yes.
When it gets
See,
verbalized, it kind of
exactly.
Figure.
You minimize it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is what I meant. You see, now as we begin to explore more love, freedom, gratitude, joy, even the word understanding, which is seeing that there's nothing to understand, it just is, you know. So when you take it to 0 point, that's when you begin to understand what they really mean. You see, you take it to its pure nothingness.
So the feeling then of all that spills over into everything.
Everything. See, this is it. The moment you accept everything as imagination and you begin to go beyond it, then it would include everything. That there isn't a speck that you don't see God in it, love in it, joy in it, right? Exactly. That's the joy. That's the beauty of richness. Yeah. Yeah. You see? Because everything becomes that one then, you see? It's all encompassing. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that you'll practice this technique. And namaste.